Discover the highlights of our unforgettable trip to Sri Lanka, from ancient temples and wildlife safaris to scenic train rides and beach sunsets. We're sharing what we loved, what surprised us, and what we do differently next time. Hi, and welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Collins, who, with my expert guests, will take you on a weekly journey to destinations around the globe, providing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, practical tips, and more to help you plan your next travel adventure. Hi, and welcome to episode 59 of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. This week, Doug and I are here to chat all things Sri Lanka. Following our recent trip, we've had loads of questions, loads of emails asking us to share all the details about the trip. So that's what we're going to be doing today in this episode of the podcast. And I have asked my friend Karen, who's also a podcaster, to come and do the interviewing today. And she has loads of questions to ask us. So hopefully we'll cover everything you want to know. But Karen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey there, my name's Karen and I'm the host of the New Life in Australia podcast, and I'm a friend of Tracy and Doug's, and this is my first time catching up with them after they've come back from their travels, so I'm really looking forward to asking you loads of questions.
Oh, well, we've got loads to share, that's for sure.
That's great. So can you tell us a little bit about your first trip to Sri Lanka? This was your first trip, wasn't it? And what inspired you to go there?
Yeah, it was the first time for both of us, wasn't it?
It was. It's somewhere I really wanted to go because of my love of cricket.
Ah, yes, and trains, because you're seeing, there was some amazing train trips Definitely. In Sri Lanka. I think Sri Lanka's just been somewhere that we wanted to go to for a long time. We've had friends in the UK, hi Linda, hi Mark, who went to Sri Lanka about 9 years ago. And ever since we saw the photos and we chatted to them about it, it was somewhere that we really wanted to visit. Yeah. And following my time in India last year, because I was 6 weeks in India last February, March, it just was, I had to go back and explore that region. And so Sri Lanka, luckily this time, I guess when we plan our itinerary, it just fitted in beautifully on our way back to Australia.
It really did, yeah.
So I think that was the inspiration, really. You wanted to go for cricket.
Cricket and trains, yeah.
And trains. Yeah. And I just wanted to go and experience the Sri Lankan culture, food, and just generally see what it was like.
That's fantastic. So it was sort of a stop on the way back to Australia. How long did you have to fit in your itinerary, and how far in advance did you start planning it all?
Basically, we had as long as we wanted, because we knew we had to get back to Australia sort of early on in May. So it was basically when we were planning our trip back from the UK, we had quite a few months to sort it. So we were trying to think, well, how long do we want minimum in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, we sort of dipped in and dipped out and just kept adding onto a list. We want to go here. We want to go there. Yeah. We want to go here. We want to go there.
It kept growing.
Yeah, we had to prioritize because there's so many destinations that we wanted to go to. Yeah. But because Sri Lanka was so high on there, kind of like we really want to stop off. And because it's just an obvious stop off when you've got time from Europe. So we did. So we kind of knew we wanted to do a sort of 3 weeks was what we're looking at doing. And when did I start planning it? 3 weeks before.
in depth, yeah.
In depth. We kind of knew. And to be honest, I think I booked the flights maybe, even the flights were probably only booked about a month before. Yeah, because we'd flown over, we're talking about that in a common podcast, episode 62. So if you want to know more about our huge long trip that we did, you'll find more information in that podcast. But we knew that we had the time, like 3 or 4 months to come back. So it was a case of we decided to go to Morocco, or kind of on a spur of the moment. And then we decided from there, well, let's do a bit of Spain and Portugal because we haven't been for a long time. And then you kind of look at the map and figure out where you can stop on the way back. And neither of us had been to Istanbul. So we went, let's go to Istanbul.
We need to say, when we first planned it, we were planning everywhere we wanted to visit. It was going to take us 5.5 years.
Yeah, well, that's it, because all the places, absolutely. Yeah, we were literally going everywhere in the world. But also because, this is going to sound crazy, but I don't enjoy flying at all. And I don't like long haul flights. So I didn't want any flight that was over 5 hours. So that's what we're looking at. Like, how can we hop back with short flights?
Yeah.
So I knew going from Istanbul to Colombo was going to be, I think it was about 9 hours. So I said, well, let's stop off on the way. So we went to Qatar for a few days and then flew to Colombo. So even the flights we booked relatively close to the time of flying. It was literally probably 3 weeks before because we wanted to have some flexibility.
That's right. And when you've got a short flight, you can sort of hit the ground running and just get straight on to things you haven't got to.
Yeah, without the jet lag.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. But if I know you two really well, you might leave things till sort of quite late to organise, but you do really organise things that you're going to do. You don't just wing it. You don't just rock up and kind of book a hotel when you arrive or anything like that. It's all strategically planned and you'll be going through lots of different resources. So how did you go about organising things? Because as I say, I'm sure you had everything mapped out within those sort of 3 weeks before you were arriving.
Well, I spoke to my friends Linda and Mark, who've been to Sri Lanka before. So I wanted to chat to them and say because I knew their itinerary because they'd written about it for the website. So I wanted to have a look at it and say, what would they do differently? So that was the first thing I kind of said, what would you add on and how long would you recommend we go for? So they were like 3 weeks. And I said, what would you have done different? And they were like, we would have gone to Gaul because they didn't go to Gaul. So we went, okay, well, we'll add that in. I also looked at quite a few different websites and just kind of read information from other travel bloggers about what they recommended. So Josie from Josie Wonders, I know she'd been to Sri Lanka, so I had a look at her information. So it was just kind of piecing it together. And I can't remember, so apologies because I can't remember which website it was, but somebody mentioned, which was actually probably the best tip that we had since we were booking so late, was to go anti-clockwise rather than clockwise with the trains. But I'll talk about that in more detail in a bit. But yes, we do. Yes, I probably didn't plan it as in-depth as I normally would, as in I planned most of the things, or at least knew how I could plan them as we got there. So, for example, I knew that we could book safaris when we got to the accommodation in Yala. So I planned that maybe a week ahead with them, but I kind of didn't want to miss out anything major. So I did book some of those things ahead. But again, by reading about what you need to book, I think that's essential. And that's something we do on both a UK travel plan and London travel plan and websites, is we will say how far in advance you should be thinking about booking things.
Yeah, because you don't want to miss out on one of those major bucket list things because you just were arriving and hadn't pre-booked it. And I always remember you saying about booking the Harry Potter experience in London, that you need to get that locked in early with the UK travel planning site. And it's so important to get those important things booked in.
Yeah, otherwise you could miss out. And that was the thing for us. The train travel was a huge thing that we wanted to experience. We wanted to go on some of these iconic trains. So that was why we decided to go anti-clockwise rather than clockwise, because it's easier to get tickets last minute, because most people go clockwise. So we went the other way.
Just to be a bit different as well.
To get the tickets, because everybody's going that clockwise direction.
Which is why we passed trains very, very full, and our train was
not too bad.
Not overfull.
So, for example, like going from Ella to Candid, which is one of the most scenic train journeys in the world, everybody goes Candid to Ella. We went Ella to Candid. So
it's quite a more relaxed journey.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Good tip. So you booked everything yourself independently. Did you kind of arrive and book it yourselves, or did you book it online or through your hotels?
We booked most of the places online. We did book some of the tours through accommodation when we arrived, that they would arrange a driver. In Yala, they arranged the safari jeep and the driver for us for those tours. So we did contact the hotels. For example, go and getting transport from one area to another. So we were going from Gaul to Yala. We asked Yala to organise that pickup. So they picked us up in Gaul and took us to Yala. So we asked them for transportation, because we know, and again, that was a tip from our friends Linda and Mark. They said, ask your accommodation. They'll be able to organise that. They'll have all of those connections.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So can you give us a bit of a quick overview of your itinerary, like how long you were there? You said you were there for 3 weeks, is that right?
Yeah, it was about 19 days, I think.
And where you visited on your trip?
Okay, so we arrived into Colombo and we were met by transport from the hotel. And that was about 40 minutes away, 40 minutes away.
Yeah, and then we stayed for, I think it was 3 days. So one thing that we did do is we didn't stay long in places. So I think we hit all the major destinations.
Yeah, we certainly did, yeah. So Colombo was a good starting place. The capital city, so the first site of Sri Lanka was in Colombo, which was fantastic. So it was right on the front.
Yeah.
And train line right next to the hotel, so I could stand on the little balcony and watch the
trains
go by.
And he did.
I really did. And Tracy said, "We better go out now. You've been stood there for 2 hours."
Like, how many times can you record a train going past?
Well, it's a different train. So that's it. We started in Colombo, familiarised ourselves with the area, didn't we?
Yes.
As much as we possibly could. The hotel lays on a free courtesy tour of Colombo, some of the main sites, which was excellent, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then we had already booked the train tickets with a voucher, so we had to get to Colombo main train station to exchange the vouchers for the train tickets for the entire trip.
Yeah.
And that was really good. And after we got the train tickets, we took tuk-tuks here, there and everywhere.
Yeah.
And on the day of leaving, we left some of our luggage in Colombo. We're going to return to the hotel.
Yes, we did.
I'll explain a bit more about that later as well.
That sounds like a wise move.
Yes.
Yeah, so we travelled very light.
Yeah. So then we went from there to Gaul. So to give you a quick overview, we had the few days in Colombo. We then went to Gaul. From Gaul, we went to Yala National Park. From there, we went up to Ella, then Kandy, then back to Colombo. So that's we did that route, so a giant circle, as it were, around Sri Lanka. So that is kind of a quick overview of what we did.
Okay, that's good. I shouldn't say a very first train journey from Colombo to Gaul is straight down the coast. That is fantastic.
Absolutely.
That leads me into the next question of what were the top highlights from your trip? That train journey sounds like it was one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many. Each of the train journeys is just so unique and such a different experience that you get in the rest of Europe.
That is true.
And it's just magical. You just embraced the whole thing. It was very, very busy at the stations, and the whole idea of catching a train here. I don't know where to stand. The platform solid people.
Yeah,
it was so busy, so busy. Yeah,
but you know what? It's all part of the experience. It's all good fun, and we eventually found the seat and. Yeah,
on each of the trains. Yeah, so we did 3 train journeys. So we did Colombo to Gaul, which is a couple of hours, and we did that first class. That was very comfortable. And then we did the train journey from Ella to Kandy, which is about 6.5 hours. I think we were in second class, which is great because all the windows are open, the doors are open, so you can go and sit by the door and enjoy the scenery. Honestly, that was so much fun. We really enjoyed it. You think 6 hours on a train, it's a long time, but actually, and the scenery, it was just stunning. The tree plantations, it was beautiful, wasn't it?
It's all open air, the wind blowing in, but hot air, and you can stand in the doorways. And,
really,
got to be
really
safe. Got to stay safe.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, you do have to be careful. And then we took the observation car when we took the trip from Kandy back to Colombo, and that was lovely. And we met so many lovely Sri Lankan people who were interested in what we were doing and chatting to us. And basically we sat and we just had open windows, well, not open windows, but glass in front of us. And then we just saw the journey as we kind of progressed to Colombo.
Yeah. Any train people know it's like a bubble observation car.
Okay, I was just going to say, what's an observation car? It's not something I'd heard of before.
So it's just basically all windows.
Okay.
Really. And we were right at the back of the train, so we sat literally on the seats at the front of the back. So we had the best views.
It was fabulous.
It was really, really good.
And Doug did take a lot of videos, so we're going to share some of that video because that was really cool as well. And talking to a lot of Sri Lankans who'd been to Kandy because there was a big national holiday, religious holiday. So a lot of people had been in, over 1 million people in Kandy. So it was very, very busy. So that was lovely, just chatting to people what they'd been showing us. They'd shown us photos of what they'd been, because we didn't go to the Temple of Truth, but they had. And so they were showing us photographs. So it was fantastic.
Lots of family photos, people you've never seen, never met before. They're showing the entire family photo album.
So it's a very welcoming place.
Very, very friendly. I think other highlights for me were seeing the leopard in Yala National Park. That was fantastic. I have seen leopards in Africa, but to see the leopard in Yala, because we did two safaris, and the first one we didn't see the leopard and everybody else did. We just couldn't get the jeep close enough. But the second time we did the safari, it was great. We saw it was a big leopard with a kill as well, which was just something amazing. So we did that, and seeing the elephants as well. So that the nature was fantastic.
My first safari, so I can't compare it to anything else. First time I've ever been on one.
Yeah, and I think honestly, the people that we just met some wonderful, wonderful people, and I do want to give a shout out to some of those people because they were just amazing. So one is Imasha, who works at the
Merino Beach Hotel.
Yeah, Merino Beach Hotel in Colombo. He was just so friendly and so helpful. And so hello, Masha. We said we'd give you a shout out because you were amazing.
She really was.
The other is the team at the Villa White Queen in Gaul, who were fantastic. So hats off to Savinda, who was just so friendly, and the team, as he said, because we thanked him as we left, and he said it's the team as well. Yeah, and they were just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. I cannot recommend Villa White Queen highly enough. Honestly, it was just a highlight of our trip. And the last kind of shout out is to Bea and Susie at the Candian Manor in Candy. Yeah. We had a homestay with them, and they were fabulous and really so welcoming, and so lovely. We loved chatting with you guys. So again, we'd highly recommend, if you're going to stay in Candy, to go and stay with these guys because they were fantastic. But generally, everybody was so friendly.
Yeah, really were everywhere I went. Even the tuk-tuk drivers. Yeah. I talked to so many of them because obviously the second they know that I like cricket, it was a common language. So the times we're talking about cricket from every single country, shared names, shared experiences, shared, great
it was
matches.
Incredible, honestly.
Sport and trains are the way to go when you go to Sri Lanka.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. He just, honestly, the cricket, and I was like, here we go, it's going to be cricket again.
I love it. So obviously you did a lot of travelling around on trains. How else did you get around from place to place? Did you hire a driver? Did you rent a vehicle, get on a bike? What did you do?
Well, we took the trains, obviously. Other times we took tuk-tuks. We took quite a few tuk-tuks.
We took quite a few tuk-tuks here, there and everywhere.
You kind of do
Which
feel
like
an
experience if you've never done one.
You do feel like you take your life in your hands in a tuk-tuk. That's the only thing.
Yeah, try not to look ahead. You think, I'm not watching.
Yeah, so that they are an experience. And we did also hire some private drivers as well to take us from destinations. So, for example, from Gaul to Yala, from Yala to Ella. And then we had a private driver who took us out for the day when we went to Sigiriya and to Dambulla. So that was great. And they were all amazing. They were all fantastic, all so friendly, so helpful, so chatty. I mean, you in cricket. So that, and not expensive as well, not expensive.
Reasonably priced.
Have you got any tips for people who are first-time arrivals to kind of organise the transport? I know some countries you have to kind of haggle over pricing before you get in. How does that all work?
Okay, so my top tip for this is to ask the accommodation what they would say at the cost of a tuk-tuk is from, for example, the train station to their accommodation. So we knew from the outset, so they would say it shouldn't cost more than X amount. So that when we were talking to the tuk-tuk driver and they were trying to charge us double the amount, we're like, actually, no, we know this is the amount. So that was something that really was helpful because you have no idea how much things are going to cost.
Oh, yeah. I remember in Thailand travelling around, and as soon as you get off like a ferry or get off a bus, they're sort of straight away there, and they've at least doubled or trebled the price of what actually is the realistic price.
Well, we did that. One of the journeys we knew how much it cost on the way to the station.
Yes.
And then coming back from the station to the hotel, they tried to charge them like 5 or 6 times the amount. I went, well, no, we only did this 2 days ago. We know how much it costs.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they kept saying, no, no, no. And I was saying, no, no, no. So we started walking away, and then somebody else came in and said, okay, I'll do it for that.
Do it for that. And we knew that was a reasonable amount because that's how much we'd paid already for that trip.
Yeah.
But do ask your accommodation what should be the amount for those sort of trips.
Yeah, the acceptable amount.
Yeah. No, that's a really good tip because then you know what you're kind of dealing with before you get in the vehicle as well. In terms of food, was food amazing there? Did you eat a lot of food?
I always eat lots of food, but I have dietary requirements from a health condition. So what I found was talk to the people where you're getting the food from, whether it's a restaurant, cafe, or even in the homestay, these type of places. Just say to them, how hot is that going to be? How spicy is that? And quite a few times they sort of tamed it down a little for me because I love the flavours, I love the food. It's just that I can't have a hot spice.
And Sri Lankan food is spicy. Let's just say that it is hot and spicy.
That sounds like my kind of food.
Yeah. And so I think you do have to take that into consideration if you aren't like Doug can't have spicy food. So we did ask people to kind of could they tone it down a little bit.
Just for me, not for Tracy.
Yeah, I was fine with it. Sri Lankan food was fine. I did try hoppers, which is something I'd wanted to try. My daughter was like, you have to try hoppers. And I actually did that in the hotel, I think, on the last night. And I'm not going to say what they are. I'm going to put some pictures on in there. So if you want to know what hoppers are, you're going to have to look in the show notes for the photos. But it's like everybody eats hoppers in Sri Lanka.
I think you've got to be honest what you can and can't eat. But you shouldn't let that stop you traveling to a country you want to visit.
And trying the food.
Yeah. I'm still intrigued as to what hoppers are. Are they something that jumps? It's got to be something that jumps.
No, it's not anything that hops. It's not anything hops.
Yeah, it's got 15 legs.
I can't imagine Tracy eating anything like that.
Oh, no, I would.
would.
I would. I think I would. No, but it's nothing. It's no insect. No, it's actually really. It's not what you think when you hear hoppers. When I thought, I was like hoppers, but actually no, it's nothing like you think. But it's a popular dish in Sri Lanka. I have to say, because we're thinking about our favourite foods, and it's just going to sound crazy because I guess in terms of picking out a specific dish, I can't. But what I can say is with snacks is that we absolutely love the cashew nuts.
We did.
Because there's lots of cashew nuts, but the flavours of them, we found these, I think they were cheese and sour cream or something. Was it cheese?
Cheese onion.
Something like cheese and onion, but they were absolutely really like Moorish.
Well, we like to take snacks when we're on a train journey.
Yes.
Just in case, Seb's taking water with you. But we will do like little snacks, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
And we bought a small packet on the first journey.
We went back.
Then by the time we do the next journey, we got even bigger
packet. Yeah, we did. And obviously, you love the tea.
Oh yes, the tea, the ginger tea. I sort of drink that. I brought a box back with us as well.
Okay, you'll have to make me. No, you won't have to make me when I drink coffee. I don't drink tea. I wish I did, but
maybe the assumption I was going to share.
You won't be sharing that ginger tea. I can come tea.
Oh, that's great. So were there any other favourite dishes? Like, did you have any street food and things like that? I'm guessing it was really cool for street food there.
I don't know if we did, because the problem we have, I guess, is more because of Doug's, and because it's spicy. We know there that Sri Lankan food is spicy. We had to be really careful. So, I mean, after Sri Lanka, we went to Malaysia where we went crazy and had lots and lots of street food. But I think in Sri Lanka, we were a little bit more reserved, a bit more careful, a bit more reserved, because we didn't want Doug to get ill, and because it is spicy. So we did have food in the hotels. We had food at the homestay. We would check out the menus at the different places we stayed. The food was good at the Villa White Queen as well. We had breakfast. A lot of time what we did is, again, we would have like a decent sized breakfast if the accommodation came with breakfast. And a lot of fruit. Oh my goodness, the fruit was amazing. A lot of fruit. And then again, just try and have something small at lunchtime and then more of a bigger meal at night. We did more of that.
We did.
And made sure that I think everywhere we did have a good breakfast every morning.
It's a good budget-friendly way of travelling as
Absolutely,
well to do that.
It is.
It also saves a lot of time, because how many times we've been in places around the world, you spend such a long time walking around trying to find somewhere to eat that you're missing out on other things.
Yeah, especially breakfast. You want to make sure you've got a good start.
Good breakfast, especially if you're going to be walking around a lot.
Exactly.
So how did you handle money in Sri Lanka? Did you use cash, cards, digital? Were there lots of ATMs and cash points available to get cash out? Or did you not need cash?
No, we did need cash. You do need cash in Sri Lanka. And we have Wise cards. So we use our Wise cards. And we did use a Wise card, which is a form of digital payments, a contactless payment, to pay for mainly the hotels. We also use credit cards to pay for the hotels as well. But we use a lot of places obviously tuk-tuk drivers need cash. When you're paying for entry to some places, you need it to have cash as well. I'm trying to think what else we need cash for. Oh yes, when we were in Yala to pay the safari jeep, we had to pay that in cash. We didn't have to pay the entry to Yala National Park itself in cash, but to pay the driver, we had to pay in cash. To pay transfers, you have to pay in cash. So you do need to have cash. What we did do is we withdrew from the ATM. And so what I do with this is we just put, because you do worry about card skimming, so is that Doug keeps his card for ATM transactions. Yeah. So I would just transfer the money onto his card, and then he would take out that amount of money from his card. But plenty of ATMs. We didn't have a problem anywhere really with an ATM. So we managed it. In fact, by the time we left, we had a little bit of cash at the end, which I just spent at the airport. But I'm not sure if Sri Lanka is a place you can't get the currency until you actually arrive. But we didn't have any.
We did use the ATM at the airport.
We did, yeah, because we needed to have some cash to start with.
Taxis and things like that as well. So, and in terms of mobile phone coverage, how did you manage Wi-Fi using your phone? Did you get a local SIM card? Did you use an eSIM?
Well, for us, it's really important to have connection because we obviously need to be connected because of the work. So we did have eSIM.
We did.
We used the eSIM. I didn't find connection was not brilliant in Sri Lanka, I have to say.
It was better in Colombo.
Yeah, we knew that, and people had said that Colombo would be the best place for connecting, and we did. So I when I looked at accommodation, I did look at that on Booking.com. I went through and said, right, so what was the score for Wi-Fi, because it is so important for us. So, but we still, even though some of the places seem to have kind of higher scores, we did find connection a little bit difficult. Colombo was fine, Galle was fine, Yala we struggled a little bit with that. Ella was okay when we actually went into Ella itself, and then we could connect, but not. We stayed at homestay, so it wasn't great. So it was really hit and miss. It was difficult in the day to actually do anything. I don't know if having a local SIM would have been better. But the whole idea of changing SIMs doesn't appeal.
No. eSIMs are very convenient and very helpful to have, and especially when you're jumping from country to country as well.
Oh, it was so easy because I've got quite a few eSIMs on my phone now. See, and also you can just top them up as you go. But I would say Sri Lanka was the worst connectivity of any of the countries we travelled to. It was a bit of a struggle.
Somewhere to take a holiday and relax rather than try and get online and do some work.
Yeah, or plan your work around when you know you're going to be in somewhere that's got good connection. So we didn't do any consults, for example. We did do a video consult, but we did that from Galle, which was fine. But I did say to people, for the next 10 days, we're not going to have connections, so don't book anything, because we're going to struggle to get. We couldn't do a one-to-one consult, for example, but we could do a video consult where we just do an itinerary. We'd just review an itinerary. We could do that, and we did do one. But we had to send it in parts, because I was just like, we recorded it in parts, because I'm not going to record 30 minutes and it all disappear. So we recorded it 10 minute slots and then sent it to them like that. And they received it. It was all fine. But yeah, you do have to, when you're working as well as traveling, you have to juggle all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot more to think about. So, and that plays into the next questions really about where you stayed. I know you've mentioned a few of the places. How did you choose where to stay and what type of accommodation to stay in?
Well, we chose 5. We chose 5 very different types of accommodation, actually, because we wanted a variety, didn't we?
We did. The first one we stayed in wanted somewhere we could leave our luggage.
Yes. So yeah, we needed somewhere that we could go to, leave our luggage and return to. But also we had another consideration in that there was the Australian elections, and I think we kind of knew by that point vaguely when the date was going to be. I think we did know, because I was like, we need to just check that we can go and vote while we're in Sri Lanka. And the hotel wasn't too far actually from the Australian High Commission, so we could do that. So that was one consideration. But I always look as well at the reviews. I don't stay anywhere that's less than an 8 or a 9 on Booking.com. That's who I tend to book with. I also look for free cancellation. We did change some of our accommodation as we travelled, though. So the first one was, as I said, was Marina Beach, and we could leave our luggage, which we did. The second was, I think I changed this actually 3 or 4 days before, and I changed it to Villa White Queen. I can't quite remember why I decided to change it. Maybe I was looking for save a little bit more money, or I just wanted to change what we're doing, or I definitely wanted a pool. I can't remember. But I booked and I looked at everything, and I was like, Villa White Queen sounds amazing. And I'm so glad we did, because it was just a really good. And then we do a mix. So we do budget and we also do luxury. So Yala, our stay at Wild Culture in Yala was the splurge.
Yeah.
Because that was not cheap. That was expensive. It's a beautiful resort. It's very close to National Park. So we wanted also at that point to have a few days of just relaxing, because we've been traveling for a long time. So it had a beautiful pool. We could have a couple of days doing safaris, one day where we could relax, just catch up on a bit of work, but just catch our breath. So that's what we did there. So that was kind of that resort. And then we chose a homestay for the last 2 places, because again, our friends Linda and Mark said, you've got to do homestays.
Yeah, we did. So we tried this one that's a bit of a walk outside.
Ella.
Yeah. But it was nice view.
Yeah, we had a fantastic view. So that was fine. Castle Cloud homestay in Ella. It was a long climb up to the accommodation, but I kind of knew that when I booked it. And I thought, well, you know what,
we've experience.
Well, we've been traveling for a long time. We're relatively fit because we've had to be, because we've had so much walking. So I thought we'll cope with it. So we did. We just managed it. So that was quite nice. Again, having that homestay experience. Unfortunately, the one thing we had looked forward to at that place was the home cooking, the home breakfast. But unfortunately, the mum who did that was away, so we couldn't have that. So that was a bit of a disappointment with that. And then the last one we did, the homestay, was in the Candid Manor with B and Susie, which was just, they have just the most beautiful place, don't they?
They do. 2 beautiful dogs as well.
2 gorgeous dogs, a beautiful home, a lovely family. Yeah. So, and you want to stay. We always want to try and connect with the community, the country we visit. So, of course, that gave us the opportunity to do that, to talk to Sri Lankans. What's it like to live in Sri Lanka? What do you like to? Where do you go on holiday? What do you like to see? What would you recommend?
Local knowledge again.
Yeah, that local knowledge, which you're not necessarily going to get. I will say, actually, I'm just going to refer back to the Merino Beach. One thing the Merino Beach does, which is amazing, is that they offer a free tour of Colombo. So that was great. So we did that free tour, which is it was about 2-3 hours, and that was brilliant. So we didn't have to pay for it. It was part of the accommodation. One thing we did look for was pools.
Where possible. Yeah.
Where possible.
When you've been travelling for a long time, like you say, you want to be able to have some downtime in between doing things. So it is nice to have a pool.
And it was very, 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 very hot in Sri Lanka. So we did appreciate having the swim pool. The only one place we didn't was in Ella. We didn't have a pool. But again, we were looking at, that was a budget. It was, I can't remember how much it was, like maybe $30 a night. It was not expensive.
Was there generally air conditioning in any of the places you stayed? That's an important one.
Yes, we had air conditioning, I think, in every single one, but probably that homestay in Ella.
Yeah, it was a good fan there.
But there's a fan. You just cope with it, I guess. But yes, it was hot. And I mean, obviously what you need in those sort of places is the mosquito nets. And the mosquito net, we did have a mosquito net over the bed, so that's important as well.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
So any particular standout accommodation, or were they all just really good in different ways?
Honestly, Merino Beach, amazing. Villa White Queen, amazing. Candid Manor, amazing. I think those 3. I mean, we only stayed in 5, so it's like they were all good. Honestly, they were all good. But I just think if I was going back, I'd go back to those 3 in a heartbeat.
Most definitely,
absolutely in a heartbeat. I think next time I probably wouldn't stay in Yella. I wouldn't go to the national park. I'd go somewhere else. So, but I mean, it was a lovely resort. And again, a homestay is it's just a different experience. So I probably would do a different homestay to stay with a different family.
Yeah, to give you a completely different experience of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
So I love what you were saying before about how you chose a place that you could leave your luggage, because you've been around the world. You've obviously got a lot of stuff with you, and you were probably bringing back quite a lot of stuff from the UK, I'm guessing, like lots of jars of Marmite in Doug's case. So you had somewhere that you could store a bulk of your stuff. What did you take with you to go around Sri Lanka? Like, did you just have like a day pack each? How big a pack? What did you pack with it? What were your essentials?
We had one small suitcase.
Small.
Like a little
carry-on.
Cabin
Carry-on size. And then I had a day pack, and you had a day pack as well. That's all we took. Pack set. That's all we took. Because you don't want to be honestly dragging on and off trains with massive suitcases. And I don't think there's so many people with huge suitcases, to be honest. Everybody's pretty practical. A lot of backpacks. Yeah. And leaving the luggage, because yes, you're right. We had a lot of luggage because we've been traveling for a long time. In all
seasons, we've been traveling.
So we had everything. So what it meant we did the day before we left, we just went through the luggage, took the things we knew we'd need, and packed those, and then left everything else in Colombo, which was great.
Was there anything that you left in Colombo that you regret?
No, I think we had everything. I think we're pretty good at that point in making sure we checked and we took everything that we needed.
I think because you'd been travelling for so long as well, you'd probably got it all down to a T as to what you need to leave and what you need to take.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's we just made sure that we had enough clothes that we could wash stuff, and we washed as we went.
Yeah, just sort of hand washed.
Yeah, hand washed. So it was fine.
Actually, I think when you're travelling, you need a lot less than you think you're going to need when you first set off at the beginning of your trip.
That's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what general practical advice have you got for anyone who's a first-time visitor to Sri Lanka?
I just would say take your time. Don't try and go from one night in one place and then one night in another place and one night in another place and do it too quickly. Do it slowly and go and stay with the people and the Sri Lankan people and homestays. I don't know. I just think I would say that just practically take it slowly. Make sure that you have packed well for the trip in terms of try and think about, it's hot, so you're not going to need a lot of warm things or jumpers or stuff like that.
That's true. I think one thing stood out for me in Sri Lanka was how engaging the people are. Yes, I know I've talked to them about cricket a lot, but just how open and how easygoing, how relaxed the people are, and how easy it is to just talk to you on any level about any topic of conversation. And
I was going to say, maybe do a bit of research on cricket.
Yeah, gives you a good angle to go in.
It's certainly a good icebreaker. There's no doubt about that. Yeah.
I think for us, I guess because we were coming from Europe where it was a bit colder, I think that the heat kind of took me by surprise, and I was looking forward to heat, and as I love the warmth, but I think it was that did kind of throw me for six a little bit because it was quite hot and humid.
We went by Doha, so that was very hot.
That was very hot. So we'd had kind of that introduction. But I think, just think about what you're going to need. Like, for example, if you're going to climb Sigiriya, probably best not to do it in sandals, but maybe put trainers on. That sort of thing I would consider. Yeah. Make sure you've got a water bottle that you can refill with water because you are going to need it.
Which I always take.
That was going to say, that's always a good one to remember to pack.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to think what else what else I would say is a tip. I'd say, like I said before, maybe go anti-clockwise, but consider what it is that you want to do and give yourself time to enjoy it.
I think so.
And were there any cultural customs or etiquettes that you needed to be aware of?
I think about being respectful to the multicultural locations you visit, same as you would in any country, but respect what their wishes are and what their beliefs are. Yeah,
and we were there during New Year, so we went to some restaurants to eat, and they weren't allowed to serve alcohol, which we hadn't been aware of. So it's just,
which doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother Doug because he doesn't drink, but it's just something to be aware of because I don't know. I think we were in Goal actually. And I thought, let's go and have a nice cocktail sunset, and we went to sit. And they was like, no, you can't. And we're like, well, why not? And there was, because it's New Year and we can't serve alcohol. So that was something we didn't know. Just being aware of that sort of thing, I guess, is important. What we didn't realise as well is that when we went to Kandy, that there was going to be a national holiday and it was going to be extended. So it was very, very, very busy, like over 1 million people in Kandy. So we had to adjust what we were going to do because it was just too busy in the centre of Kandy itself. So we didn't. So I think be flexible. That's another thing I'd say. Be flexible and adjust because that's what we did along the way. And if you can't do something, just, don't worry about it. It's like I think we had to adjust some things that I wanted to do because it was just too hot. And I was like, I'm not going to manage that. For example, at the Nine Arch Bridge. Yeah. It would have been lovely to have actually walked along the train track, and there was plenty of people who did that. But I just knew physically I wasn't going to be able to manage that,
which is not a safe thing to do.
No, but there's a lot of people doing that and taking videos and pictures. Yeah. I don't think it's not allowed in Sri Lanka. I think people do it. Yeah. So, but obviously you'd be careful. But I just think there were some things that I wanted to do, would like to have done, but wasn't going to manage. And I guess that's another tip is just if you're going to be traveling places like this, is just think about
pace yourself.
Yeah. You do a lot of walking, so just think about how many steps you're going to climb to do stuff for example, I didn't climb Sigiriya. Now everybody I know has climbed Sigiriya, and I was like, when I got there, I was like, no, I'm going to climb it. And I looked and I thought it's too hot for me, and it was 9 o'clock in the morning. It was too hot. There was no way I knew physically I could do that, and actually I ended up with heat exhaustion that even though I hadn't climbed it. Mm-hmm. So Doug did do it. And I think you just have to make peace with yourself if there's some things you can't manage to do.
Yeah, because it could wipe you out for the next couple of days if you overdo something like that.
Yeah, and actually I'm glad I didn't because we went to Dambulla afterwards, which was again quite a few steps, and I was okay to do that.
I struggled with
Doug struggled because he'd done 2,000 steps climbing up Sigiriya, but I was okay doing it. It was still a lot because you got to remember it's so hot. Yeah. And it does drain you.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I'd kind of say.
Yeah.
Right, that's great. Well, we're coming to the end of the interview now. What is the one tip each of you would share with somebody who's planning their first time visit?
I would say go anti-clockwise rather than clockwise. And I know that I have kind of mentioned that, but I'd just say go the opposite way to everybody else. Do the route a different way. I'd also stay longer because I'd love to have stayed longer.
I think what we did is to use strategy when it comes to your luggage, which is leaving most of it in Colombo and then returning to it. It made life so much easier with the trains and just moving around.
Yeah, so I think that's good.
And also then you've got a base that you know to come back to get your flight the next day, so you know that you're not going to be rushing for a flight, trying to get a train at the last minute to
exactly.
your airport.
And you're familiar with the hotel, so you know your way around the hotel. You know where to eat. You know the staff. It's just so much easier, and we didn't have to say hassle with luggage, which honestly, when you've got, this is another thing when you travel long term, is like you've got to think about strategies like that, because you do not want to be dragging 30 kgs each of luggage all over the place. It's not pleasant.
And also, if you've got several suitcases towards 30 kilograms, you don't want to keep opening it, unpacking everything, packing everything. It becomes quite draining just to do that. So at times, not just this leg of the journey, there's quite often one suitcase we just didn't open.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we were strategically packed. I think that's
not just winter clothes when you're going somewhere hot.
Yeah, we did that.
Well, thank you so much. That's been really interesting hearing all about your trip.
Oh, well, thanks so much, Karen, for coming on to the podcast this week and interviewing us all about Sri Lanka. As always, you can find all the information and links to what we talked about in this episode at the show notes, which are globaltravelplanning.com/episode 59. But that just leaves all of us to say until next week, Happy Global Travel Planning. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app, because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.